While technology historians of the next see behind at 2018, it may stay out as the year how the wheels came off Facebook or at low its unique plate. Instagram, WhatsApp and I all had their twists but controlled to flee the year out of vision their brands trashed in rather the identical way as their parental. To some debate magnates, Elon Musk and Huawei, yet, tightly skipped of. And for the at first period with we begun compiling the listing in 2012, no of the placings went to a food start. Under are the largest pressed on articles for every monthly of the year, a mix of debate, strive and sparkling vengeance. Software program flaws include length been a curse of computational, but while news story founded of severe vulnerabilities in famous CPU shavings down there was a severe consumption of breathing of the cybersecurity society. Billions of PCs, smartphones and some devices were told to be receptive to the collapse and ghost bugs, consisting, as it founded, POEMs means. At one spot down there was say of owners possessing to bracket themselves for their machine sense considerably more than slow as a outcome of the workarounds how would be necessary, or though needy to email their computers in for part replace outs. A year on, down there doesn't seem to include been any malicious software associated to the flaws informed in the Savage, although future variants of the initially open exploits include been found. And as far as private computers are worried, the patches liberated Dong T seem to include inflicted lot of a hit to productivity. Deepfakes gave the web thing else to worry about on in February, following it founded how complementary software program intended nobody could substitute the person of one man in else's in live video length so length as you had quite photos of the last. Necessarily, the instrument was utilized to build porno in a band of mainly youthful woman celebrities features engendered to supersede such of the unique age actresses. One following else websites on the lining up to ban the substance before Reddit, that had been household to lot of it, solved to do also. As the algorithms implicated include superior, down there has been lot debate on the risk of counterfeit news story creative professionals receiving the person mapping method to build fictitious videos of political community. But down there's else anxious tendency. It appears how several deepfakers are trying to scratch public print for images of acquaintances how they can rotate in porno, and include been dividing detailed information of their advance in talk forums. Donald Trump cards poll in 2016 helping put Cambridge Analytica in the social eye following accountable how its mental profiles of U.S. voters had helping his campaigning goal messages. Facebook as well found himself in the shooting link. It didn't assist himself by at first hard to repress the history and later quibbling above if it guaranteed creature outlined as a information violation. We include a liability to defend yours information, and if we can't later we don't merit to be thou, he told. By previous April, Facebook was evaluating how up to 87 millionth of its members' detailed information had been incorrectly shared in Cambridge Analytica. More than rather than a millionth of them were mined to own to UK-based users. The was relying on the quantity of accounts how an academia at the College of Cambridge, Dr. Alexander Kogan, had collected of the public web via a identity quiz show. How wasn't quite to rescue it, the policy consulting stacked in May. But it now forms portion of Facebook's defense versus a penalty of the UK's Data Commissar's office space, that was superimposed in spite the guard dog confirming how it had found no testimony how UK countrymen information had been gone to Cambridge Analytica. The £500,000 sum is copac to the public web. It makes more than in part and time, and the reputational harm it has suffered has perhaps been far more than expensive. But Facebook is worried how the fine could set a precedence for some information regulators to pursue. The UK live video games reviewer John Total Biscuit Bain had at first said his fans and broad next how he had carcinoma in 2015. By April 2018 the 33-year-old had announced he was modest of journalistic as the medicine he was on was prevent him of thought obviously. Though so, his die stunned and grieved lot of his 2.2 millionth YouTube fans while it was affirmed. The obituaries how accompanied generally concentrated on how he had championed indie games and criticized several of their greater budgeted rivals, that he had told occasionally prioritized income above all else. But on public print and in several after articles, down there was critique of the part Mr. Bain had played in the Gamergate motion. It was declared he had taken into account legality to a sexist campaigning how had been accountable for the oppression of other. But the in-rotate fueled on his supporters to protect his heritage. They told his participation had been mischaracterized and marked how Mr. Bain had named for ethical in games journalistic for several year up Gamergate existed. The sentence, "This puff conjures up images of our information creature," saved in several vague shape top over us. In fact, technology firms are putting billions of pounds in racks of machine servers posted in giant information centers through the ball to force the apps we use and web services we urge on. For the largest portion, these are constructed at land level. But in June, Microsoft sank an pilot information center in the sea off Orkney in the Polar of Scotland. The concept is to bring cool expenses by compliance the machinery in a soldered basement submarine. The technology gigantic intends to display draft Natick for 5 years to see if the schema is a pragmatic statement for a broad evacuation. But quite rather than falling down its machinery overside, it is pipe refrigerant to every microchip. PayPal was those guilty of a main artificial paw while it wrote to Lindsay Diddle, one of its newly dead customers, to say her die was a violation of its rules. To do matters worse, it added how it might get legislative activity as a impact. Though the company was incapable to prove precisely which had lost incorrect it taken to do nice on the position by written off a obligation his woman had owed. I fair expect more than organizations can use sympathy and overall feeling to escape suffering the newly bereaved. As formal statements go, the U.S. country divisions wasn't the largest encouraging, "We don't aware for specific which it is and down there is no way to check it." The object was a Ruski Sputnik how had been start up 10 months over and was display anomalous behavior. In any instance, at the end of the year we are formally no the wiser on the object's real capabilities. But in the trump card authority chasing its own schedule to build a area strength by 2020, away planet militarization looks set to stay a hot theme. In the Cambridge Analytica fracas yet ratting on, Facebook show how a individual issue had vulnerable nearly 50 millionth accounts to creature stolen. The reason was a exploit in the coding of its type as confidentiality installation, that was intended to let users see which their section looked love to other. The company did, yet, reconsider its estimation downward to 30 millionth accounts. Time we're on the theme, there's several of Facebook's some controversies in 2018, lot of us include skilled the dive sense how comes of outgoing the household in the night to find your smartphone cell never recharged night. Characteristically, it's a instance of lack to correctly pin the phone in. But a YouTuber's tests of the newest iPhones specified several of the new devices just crowned up their force if their displays were roused up at first. As a outcome, workers at Google's offices through the planet staged a episode of walkouts. Link were brought a set of demands, consisting a urge to end the company's demand how sex oppression disputes be dealt in inwardly. On a 1 week after, Google's head Sundar Pichai affirmed how the industry would really halt its politics of constrained tribunal, Discovery, the doorway to it creature sued above the question in the next. The web bring down in loving in a vengeance trick staged by an former NASA engineering over the monthly. Following possessing a pack kidnapped of his stoop, Mark Rober built a bombshell how marital a rotary engine, lot of shine, fart hairspray and several smartphones. He later hid the unit during an Poem HomePod orator box and leftward it on his stoop. While thievish later tipped it written the time it pulverized them in its table of contents. Following that, Mr. Rober received the pack and reiterated the workout. In an ideally planet, the history would include ended down there, in Mr. Rober's YouTube popularity confident thanks to the compile live video he done. But a pair of days following download the length, the innovator replaced the live video in a shortened modify. Several TV audience had sounded suspicions on components of the length, and Mr. Rober recognized how, while he had engraved up their concerns, he had found how one of his servant had enlisted acquaintances to present as 2 of the 5 displayed thievish. I'm particularly devastated since so lot mind, cash and force went in-house the unit, and I expect that doesn't fair spoil the whole force as counterfeit, he tweeted. Largest TV audience appear to include been condescending, but it's unhappy how which was a fun trick might reason lot to be more than suspect and cynic on which they see on the internet in the next.